6 years ago, the small nation of Nudiria stood at the edge of collapse, torn apart by war. However, its salvation came through the might of a renowned mercenary group known as the Fierce Beast Mercenary Corps. They were feared and respected across the land, calling themselves the strongest in the world. Each member possessed unique quirks and temperaments, forming a band of formidable warriors that no army dared challenge. Among them, rumors spoke of something unusual, a child who had joined their ranks. Whether truth or rumor, it was said that at one point, a young boy had become part of the legendary corps. Years later, the streets of Nudiria show the scars of battle, crumbling buildings and broken lives. In one alley, a small boy pants heavily as he hides in the shadows. Two men pass by, laughing and talking, only to shove him roughly when he accidentally bumps into them. "Watch where you're walking," one yells, glaring down with disgust. As the boy stumbles, the man sneers, "This is why I can't stand brats from the slums." His companion shrugs it off. "Leave him. He'll probably drop dead somewhere anyway." The boy crouches alone on the cold street, clutching his chest as they walk away. In the quiet alleyways, he reflects on his life. "I don't really know who I am," he thinks. He has no memory of his parents, only faint words from a mother whose face he cannot recall. Everyone around him called him a monster, a child abandoned by the world. Whenever despair crept in, he remembered her faint voice, whispering the words that kept him alive. "Don't die. Find someone to love." Collapsed and trembling, he murmurs to himself, "I want to see you." As his consciousness fades, a shadow looms over him. A man notices the frail child on the ground and mutters in disbelief, "This kid." Meanwhile, the boy's final thoughts echo in his mind. Ever since his foster parent died, those simple words, "Don't die, find someone to love," have been the only thing keeping him alive to this day. As the boy's body grew cold, his consciousness began to fade into darkness. Just before slipping away completely, he heard a distant voice calling out to him, "Live!" Moments later, his eyes shot open to the sound of someone shouting, "Hey, are you alive?" Startled, he gasped for air. His vision blurred as he struggled to understand what was happening. The stranger leaned closer, asking if he was feeling any better. Still trembling, the boy could only stammer, "Ha, ha, what's happening?" The man smiled kindly and explained, "You were weakened, so I gave you a pill, the kind that instantly reactivates your body." The boy's eyes widened in surprise. "You saved me?" With a relaxed grin, the man replied, "I'm just a good-natured guy coming back from the bar. Can you stand?" As the boy shakily rose to his feet, the man waved casually and said, "Eat something and rest. That medicine will only keep you going for a bit, so be careful on your way home." He turned to leave, brushing off a spider web from his shoulder and humming softly as he walked away. The boy stared at his back, silent for a moment before calling out, "Hey, wait!" The man turned, slightly annoyed. "What?" The boy hesitated, then asked with trembling hope, "Could it be, Father?" The man froze wide-eyed. "Not what? What are you saying all of a sudden?" "I'm single. I have no kids," he shouted, flustered. But the boy only looked down, clutching his fists. "You were the only one who helped me," he said quietly. The man paused, his expression softening slightly. He sighed and replied, "But I'm currently looking for a girlfriend. You know? My parents would rather help me out with that." The boy followed beside him through the alley, whispering, "And besides," hearing the boy's quiet insistence, the man sighed in defeat. "If you helped," the child began cautiously, "then that entails a great responsibility? That should accompany it, probably." The man froze, caught off guard by the boy's serious tone before groaning, "You clever brat." Rubbing the back of his head, he muttered, "Ah, you're an orphan, huh? What should I do about you?" He slumped against the wall, mumbling to himself, "I ended up helping a troublesome kid. How do I talk my way out and escape?" Then suddenly, a light bulb seemed to go off in his head. "Got an idea," he declared, snapping his fingers. Stop with the gloomy talk. Let's do some introductions, he said with a grin. I'm Begonia, a swordsman in the fierce beast Mercenary Corps, he announced proudly, thumping his chest. The boy blinked and repeated, Introductions? Me too. Of course, Begonia replied with a chuckle. Trying to understand, the boy asked, Fierce beast, Mercenary Corps. Begonia smiled. It's an organization hired to fight for money. The boy hesitated, then answered shyly, Will. Begonia's eyes lit up. I see. That's a good name, he said, patting the boy on the head. He crouched down to meet his gaze. You want to come to my Mercenary Corps? To Begonia's place, he teased. Then, in a more serious tone, he added, I have a proposal for a will like you. Yeah, Begonia continued, turning his back. But my place is dangerous. Scary. We often get dragged into rough business. There's even a chance of dying. Will clenched his fists. Yeah, I understand. Begonia raised an eyebrow. Do you really understand? Yes, the boy shouted with determination. The mercenary sighed, muttering, Is this level of intimidation not enough? Then, seeing the boy's unwavering resolve, he smiled faintly. Well then, he said, extending his hand toward the child, as if welcoming him into a new and dangerous world. Begonia suddenly drew his blade, planting it into the ground before the boy. Try to defeat me, he said with a confident grin. This is your initiation test. I could have used my own sword, but you probably can't even lift it. So make do with this dagger. Will froze, clutching the weapon with trembling hands. That's impossible. Begonia looks so strong. I can't win. The man chuckled proudly. Well, yeah, I am strong. I'd say I'm one of the top 5 swordsmen in the world. He pointed his blade toward the alley's end as he spoke. But you see, our mercenary corps has made enemies everywhere. We've even fought the Empire and the Holy Dragon Nation. Images of battlefields and fallen soldiers flashed through Will's mind. Begonia lowered his sword and said firmly, That's exactly why I'll tell you this. If you can't beat me, you can't join the corps. Will's grip tightened around the dagger. If I lose, I'll just go back to the same life. If I collapse again, this time, I really will. Begonia smirked. You want to quit, Will? But the boy shook his head, eyes burning with resolve. No, that's right. I refuse to die like this. He remembered his mother's fading voice. You mustn't die. Find someone to love. Begonia noticed the sudden fire in his eyes. With a toothy grin, he raised his sword again. I see that look in your eyes. I'll take that as a sign that you're ready. Then, narrowing his gaze, he warned, You could die if you're not careful. Aren't you afraid? Will swallowed hard, his small frame trembling. If I go back to that life, I'll die anyway. He steadied his stance, clutching the dagger with both hands. I have to win here. I have to. The boy gritted his teeth, gripping the dagger tightly. A fierce determination burned in his eyes as he shouted, I can't die! With a desperate cry, he lunged forward, charging straight at Begonia. Begonia met his attack head-on, his sword clashing with the boy's small blade in a burst of sparks. The sheer force of the impact sent a tremor through the air. Yet, instead of retreating, the boy pressed on, pushing with all the strength his frail body could muster. Begonia's expression shifted from amusement to surprise. What's with this kid? He thought, parrying the relentless strikes. The boy stumbled back, breathing heavily but refusing to yield. Begonia stared at him, realizing this wasn't just a reckless child swinging blindly. He's not just some brat. Will's eyes burned with resolve. I haven't lost yet. I'm still alive. Begonia couldn't help but grin, impressed. The test was just an excuse to scare him off. But maybe I picked up a real gem here. Straightening up, Begonia smirked and raised his sword. This is getting interesting. Come at me, Will. Will clenched his teeth, a storm of emotions swirling inside him. I won't lose. I'll survive. Dark energy suddenly began to surge around him, twisting like a storm. His resolve manifested into pure force, radiating through the alley. "I'll become a mercenary," he cried out, the power bursting from within him. Begonia's eyes widened in shock, feeling the pressure emanating from the small boy. Whoa! This pressure! Begonia's eyes widened as he watched the fierce aura swirl around Will. For a moment, the boy's form overlapped in his mind with another figure, a man he once deeply respected. "It's like I'm seeing the captain himself. What drives this kid?" Begonia thought, tightening his grip on his sword. "Is it sheer will to live?" With a serious look, he muttered, "I'm sorry, I can't hold back anymore." The two faced each other, Will trembling but unyielding, Begonia steady and fierce. The man smiled faintly. "I'm sure of it. This kid is someone we'll need someday." He raised his blade and shouted, "Show me your power, Will." With renewed determination, Will charged forward, shouting from the depths of his heart. Their blades clashed, steel meeting steel in a blinding flash. But the boy's body couldn't endure the strain any longer. His vision blurred, the world spun, and before he knew it, everything went dark. Begonia lowered his sword in shock as Will collapsed onto the ground. "Oh crap!" he exclaimed, rushing over. Kneeling beside him, Begonia checked for breath and sighed in relief. "It's very obvious. You pushed yourself too hard." A smile tugged at his lips. "You fought unbelievably well for a kid. When I was your age, I doubt I could have shown that kind of spirit." He stood, looking down at the unconscious boy. "Technically, you lost. So by the rules, you shouldn't be accepted." Then, smirking to himself, he added, "But I'll take a chance on your potential." Lifting Will onto his back, Begonia started walking through the quiet street. "I'll let you meet the captain," he said softly. As the light faded from the alley, a narrator's voice echoed. This encounter with Begonia was the first step toward the birth of Will.